This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. So let's waste no time, folks. Sounds like a good deal. Let's get to it. Story number 1. What's in House Bill 206? House Bill 206 is simple. It allows township police to enforce certain offenses on the interstate. Now, what makes this bill a topic of discussion is the already evolving push to limit and restructure what police and law enforcement can and cannot do while enforcing the laws, especially on the highway. So it allows township police to basically do the job of the highway patrolman. Now, to give you a clear picture of this House bill, it would probably actually increase violations in an already altered police state, if that makes sense. That if what I'm trying to get you a picture of what's actually happening in the police force now. So this would alter things a little bit by giving township police a little bit more authority. Now, the bill gives township police the ability to beef up the job of the highway patrolman, giving 2 people the ability to enforce the law on the highways. Now, there is a May 23rd editorial in the Mediator that dissects this bill a little more, but seeing the state of an already beleaguered justice system, now may not be a good time to ramp up what township police can and cannot do. Or who knows, maybe it is. Nobody knows, but as at the moment, the state of the police is what got this story in. Story number 2. Safety is becoming a real local concern. Safety is becoming a huge concern locally after several weeks of major accidents that have been circulating in and out of the headlines. Most of the incidents involve driving accidents, but some other ones surfaced about unexpected mishaps, like things that just happen out of the ordinary in regards to safety, causing accidents. Now, one local report surfaced after emergency crews found themselves busy in Liberty when a 15-year-old boy was injured in a bow and arrow accident. The bow went through the boy's head. A very scary story. Now, another story last week about a city construction worker who was killed in a horrific accident when his saw blade pushed back and struck him. Now, this also made headlines. So as you can see, the reports show why safety remains a major concern locally. We got to get it together safety-wise, and that's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. Youngstown brings in more money from income taxes than projected. According to Youngstown City Finance Director Kyle Mayasak, things seem to be looking in the city's favor financially. Now, in addition to over $82 million in federal aid money, the city brought in $380,000 from income tax collections. Now, this is more than what was projected. Now, with these numbers, it's looking like Youngstown is headed in the right direction in the financial crunch that everybody has been facing with COVID-19. This is compared to surrounding districts. The city also plans to use aid money to fill in any gaps brought on by the virus. So Youngstown may be headed in the right direction financially, especially with the virus. Story number 4. How effective will body cameras be for YPD, the Youngstown Police Department? As the Youngstown Police Department tries to get a grasp on the crime rate, the city's police force will now be adding cameras to its arsenal, or to the force, to use a better word. Now, this is due to an ongoing effort to please active patrons concerned about how police interact with people, the public, period, when maintaining law and order. Now, the big plus with having cameras on Youngstown cops is the simple fact that it gives the public some form of assurance that unlawful incidents will be monitored and prevented and also hopefully prevent any more unnecessary killings on the scale of what happened in the George Floyd case. Story number 5. Youngstown is still trying to figure out how to spend over $82 million in federal aid money. If you don't know how to spend it, talk to me. I'll show you how to spend it. According to a local Vindicator report, the plan is to balance the city's budget, eliminate over 500 properties that have blight, city property blight, up to the standard. They want to up the standard of living when it comes to housing. They also want to improve the city's corridors, develop youth unemployment programs, improve parks, attract a full-scale grocery store, and make some needed transit adjustments. This is all that they want to do with the over 82 million. That's a lot of money. Now, the mayor has been meeting with community leaders to figure out how to effectively use the funds and make this all happen, make his plans move forward with a slim margin of error. So he can't make that many errors when spending this money because there are restrictions on how the money can be used. Story number 6. Local communities are still trying to get back on track, especially after COVID and still in the midst of COVID. The new mindset now seems to be lay low, try to stay off of the radar, and do everything that you can to get by. Now, every surrounding local community is focused on one thing, and that seems to be stabilizing budgets and ironing things out with aid money. Now, with new news circulating almost daily about COVID-19, communities are adjusting and adapting. Now, although normal may be a long ways away, community members and leaders are mainly focused on creating and keeping good paying jobs while also keeping patrons happy in a time when things seem to be hopeless. Now, the grit of the story seems to weigh heavy on the mindset of local people and their ability to focus on self-improvement while becoming an asset to the people around them. So you got to work on yourself to make the people around you better, and that's what the main focus in this that seems to be in a lot of news stories now is all about. Now, with local officials scrambling to get over COVID-19, the next step may be to live with the reality that the virus is here to stay. So we may just have to get on with business as usual and adapt. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Mediation can be tough, but somebody's got to do it. Local businesses are feeling the squeeze, especially financially. Articles have been in circulation about small and major local businesses that are caught in legal webs. According to multiple headlines, the Chilcan plant plans to put up a legal fight with Youngstown even after the city allowed the project to sit idle for some time and also gave the company tax abatements in the process. Now, Lordstown Motors Company has also been in a few headlines after downsizing production goals, with costs going up on almost everything across the board. Local businesses are feeling the burn and they're voicing their concerns about it. These stories are pivotal to the future of local development. They're very, very important. The Chilcan plant was projected to bring in over 170 jobs, and Lordstown Motors is projecting losses and production goals have been slashed. Now, Southern Park Mall is also feeling the squeeze financially, adding more fuel to the fire of an uncertain business climate for the future. But the goal is, in all of this, no matter what, locally, we've got to remain optimistic. We've got to believe in something greater. And that's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 8 in the top local headline and developing news story that made in this week. Oh, yeah. Violence continues to hold Youngstown from its fullest potential. We've got to put down the weapons, folks. We've got to make ends meet. We've got to come together as a city. With federal aid comes accountability and wise spending. But after another story adding to the city's homicide rate, the number one question is, how do you get a city with an abundance of resources to the height of reaching its fullest potential? The reality seems to be on fixing broken people. People are broken. We had to fix broken homes and what many believe is a broken system. Now, after 3 people were killed and 3 injured at a bar on the city's west side, Youngstown remains in a battle like a large number of U.S. cities to fix. They remain in the battle to fix what seems to be broken by shifting away from a traditional system to a more community-oriented plan on a nationwide scale. But only time will tell how this story develops. We've got to stop the violence. We've got to bond, come together, unity, and stop hurting each other in the city. Youngstown, we can be better. I believe it. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. So squat down and give me 45 push-ups now, citizen, for Memorial Day. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Story number 1. I'm feeling it, man. Holiday tomorrow, taking the day off, smooth sailing. The job of a journalist has gotten very difficult over the years. This is a real deal story. After an American journalist was detained in Myanmar in an attempt to fly out of the country, the attention now is on growing safety concerns when it comes to people trying to get valuable information out to the masses, especially when somebody's messing up. These stories keep trending in and out of the news in Israel, China, and many other countries across the world. Now, the growing threats surrounding journalists remains a top concern for just journalists, period, especially people who own media companies. In Israel, an entire building housing media personnel was bombed, and in China, journalists are being put in jail for suspicious reasons. And that's pretty scary when you have journalists getting the boot. Now, this story provides a very real point of what is taking place in the field of journalism, and that is safety. Safety is always a concern for journalists. Now, it was just let's take it back. It's only been 1 year ago, it's only been a few years ago when Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi journalist, was killed. So that's not too long ago. These growing concerns is what has other people in the field of journalism wondering about their very own safety in a world of constant chaos and corruption. Story number 2. Come on, get in shape. Squat, squat, squat. Run around the block. It's Memorial Day. Ooh-wee. Let's get it. Let's get it. You can do it. Wave the flag. Remember the POWs. The world has a poverty and migration problem. But the big question is, how do we fix it? Reports of children washing up on the beaches of Libya adds more fuel to the continued concern of global migration in a time when empathy seems to be diminishing across the globe. We're losing touch with each other's feelings. We've got to get in touch with our feminine side. We have to think like loving people. Over the years, the last year, we have seen children stuck in the middle of a lot of U.S. problems, especially with the Mexico border crisis, and children being killed in drug-related incidents. This is sad news. That's why we've got to come together and sing happy song. Oh. The recent activity in Israel points out another concern when it comes to humanitarian issues also, and how children can get caught in the crosshairs of war, which is very sad. Poverty is in the middle of this debate too, especially in the middle of COVID-19. This is a growing concern. People can't find a way to eat a meal. Now, with so many people using drugs, this crisis is real, because the focus on fixing this is becoming even more of a problem, because the people looking in the mirror need help from the people providing the mirror, if that makes sense. Now, the only solution to this problem seems to be self-improvement. the people, you, and an increase in the standard of living. But you can't increase the standard of living if people don't want to help themselves. Now, a lot of people have been deprived of all of this because of their circumstances. And that's why story number 2 made it. Story number 3, the still lingering problem of caring for those who served. Veterans, salute! Caring for veterans like me and all of the other veterans in America, probably across the world. Plugging veterans back into the day-to-day life of a civilian seems to be the main concern in today's environment, getting back to normal. Now, with human emotions running wild over everyday troubles and circumstances, everybody, including veterans, are trying to get in where they fit in. So they're trying to get in the door where they fit in, where they're loved. Counselors and activists have done everything they possibly can to keep veterans on the right track and on the right path. I can relate to that because there was a time where I didn't know where I was going to end up when I got out. Now, after a slight spike in suicide rates making current headlines, this seems to be even more of a concern. Now, with a countless number of veterans involved in the Capitol riots and some even assisting in Black Lives Matter protests, the lingering problem of caring about the needs of those who served is still at the heart of this still lingering problem. At the moment, the solution seems to be plugging veterans into the right resources and sources that will get them back on track, get us all back on track. This is the main reason why this story made in this week, and especially because of the holiday, Memorial Day. So keep an eye on the people who served. Story number 3. That's why I made it in this week. And remember, always remember, that's why I made it in. Story number 4. Nobody wants to pay higher taxes. Nobody. Nope. Don't want to pay. After his plan was announced to make everyone pay their fair share, the party began. I'm joking. It didn't begin. It got worse. Some business groups have teamed up to voice their concerns about Biden's tax hikes. They don't feel it's appropriate at this particular time. They say they can't afford it and don't want to pay right now. This is the time where you should be lowering taxes. But this is not what Biden plans to do. Biden's vision is to invest in infrastructure to help boost the economy, but at the price of the higher earners. Now, although this may sound good, the reality is that the high earners are already footing the bill either way. Now, it's a pretty sad solution because not only do high earners have to keep their own ship afloat, but they have to hire and maintain their business plans. The pandemic has made the issue has made this issue even worse when it comes to higher earners, and the rich footing the bill even harder to imagine. So it's made it even harder to imagine because it's like squeezing a sponge that's providing the water for a thirsty group of people because there is only so much water in the sponge. I hope that makes sense. So it's basically saying if you're squeezing the people who are working the hardest to get water to those who are not doing that much, then you better be ready because that sponge eventually is going to run out of water. And then what are you going to do with the sponges? I mean, do you throw it away? Do you buy a new sponge? Who's going to make the sponge? Now, the major question in the story is how do you quench everyone's thirst without beating up on the people who are working the hardest? So that's what they are looking at when they look at Biden's tax plans. Now, things seem to be leveling out right now, but the economy is economists are very, very uncertain about the future, and that's why story number 4 made it in this week. Well, those are our top 4 stories that made it. I'll be right back with the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't go anywhere. You're on the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Squat down and give me 20 raw squats now, petty citizen. One thing I can't stand is somebody making excuses because of COVID. We got to get up and fight. Major Drill Sergeant First Class Petty Officer Chief Daniel Bryan Keith West says you got to get back into the game. Memorial Day spirit. Let's get to it. Story number 5 now, petty Better citizen, get up and do something with your day. Stop smoking drugs and get to work. Ooh. Story number 5. The economy and the federal deficit. Big. We got to do something about it. Major players in the financial market have some tough decisions to make in the days ahead when it comes to the economy. According to one news report, they have little wiggle room in a ballooning federal deficit. The key players are the central banks and how they are strategically trying to fight through the aftermath and during the still lingering virus, COVID-19. The key factors in this story are the GDP, borrowing rates, the moves by the big major companies that they're making. Interest rates also play a role in this story. Regulations and federal spending. That's what's keeping story number 5 in the headlines, because everybody's got their eyes on on these key topics. Now, each of these topics will play a big part in how the U.S. rebounds from the economic disaster brought on by COVID-19. We've got to make up for a lot of spending. So we got to get back to work. Give me 50 push-ups and sit-ups right now, petty citizen. Ooh. Let's get back to normal. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Let's keep it peaceful. Story number 6, the mystery behind the dreaded coronavirus. A lot of mystery. This is Clue. This is unsolved mystery. This is X-Files type stuff, folks. And I'm being real. Usually in a mystery, I'll put it together for you. You have to put together the pieces to solve the crime. That seems to be the case when dealing with the coronavirus. Right now, that seems to be the case. Now, it also involves some key figures in this problem, in solving this case, including Dr. Fauci. Now, the investigation continues, and at the moment, everything is a mystery. 2 doctors fall ill in Wuhan, and then bam, the virus is on the loose. So how can you have somebody who is the key person enforcing the rules, Dr. Fauci, being a suspect in this evolving story? Now, in this story, you may find a roadmap splattered with missing roads to hidden clues, possibly sitting in plain sight. Story number 6 is interesting. It's a mystery, folks. Go, gadget. COVID, stop her. Now, at the moment, it looks clear that somebody, somewhere, messed up, and it may be a matter of time before the truth come out. Hey, Doc. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Step right up. I've got a story for you. On Memorial Day, I've got something to share. Something magnificent. Story number 7. Why are people choosing violence over a peaceful solution? Can't we all just get along? As Rodney King would say, can't we just get along, liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats? The violence, the gang violence, the rioting, the protests. Oh, I'm exhausted. It's becoming a mystery on what is actually causing a shift on the pendulum in the direction of mass shootings and violence. We're going in the wrong direction. In multiple cases, this is becoming a major concern. In an ongoing investigation into a Minneapolis shooting that killed a college kid before he even graduated. Now, this is bad. This is a dwindling. This is even after police force was pushing for some. They're pushing for some reinforcements. They need some help. The police force is dwindling in Minneapolis, and they need help. Now, in all of the violence, a lot of people are just wondering how so many violent incidents keep taking place in a nation with so many resources. We have so much, and we still just don't want to get along. Perception plays a huge part in the story, and our perception of peace may no longer be the goal. So we've got to get back on track to peaceful solutions, singing Kumbaya and loving thy neighbor and loving thyself. The majority of cases later resulting in violent and violent incidents. The majority of these cases, they all stem from that have been in the news, have been stemming from police interactions with the public and deep ties within the political and judicial system. And that's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week, because we've got to stop the violence. Stop the violence! Stop the violence! Stop the violence! We've got to stop the violence. That me. Oh, I'm gonna show you the words back in the 80s. It came out. Public Enemy number 1. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. I put on with my news stories. If you see me on TV, they say B West on some other stuff. Top 8 stories. Now I'm running to the dealership. Top down, back round. I'm sure you get the club on the membership. I'm rapping, baby. Guns and the growing question of managing them. Bang, bang. Guns. The growing concern over gun violence is bigger than we thought. America has such a bad problem with managing guns that the country has become numb to threats of mass shootings. Now, when the strategic tactic of terror was first introduced as a primetime story in the news, it has somehow spread like a virus from generation to generation, causing insurance bills to go through the roof, and has become a major problem for businesses managing places where people gathering venues. Now, the regulations on guns seems to only weigh heavy on the people who actually follow the rules and use them wisely, while the people who use them to harm other people seem to fall through the cracks. And with so many guns on the market and out on the streets, the new challenge for lawmakers is, how do you write a law to manage responsible gun owners when the people who are using them or misusing them seem to kill themselves or get away? So how do you manage a law with people who are actually doing the right thing, and then make it unlawful for people who are doing the wrong thing? Now, this is confusing. Now, this is after another mass shooting was reported in San Jose, California, which included 8 victims and the gunman. Now, one key talking point in this story is that the U.S. had 12 mass shootings in one weekend. That is very, very sad. And that's why story number 8 made it at the top this week. Well, those are our top 8 headlines, locally and international. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit, the media. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle. If you want to show some support, or me some support here at Method 8, doesn't take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Well, folks, have a good holiday. Be safe. Please be safe. And try to be civil. Well, enjoy your week. I'll be back looking through over 200 more stories next week to come back and give you some more top 8 stories next week. So this is our review. Get ready for next week, folks. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to The Mediator with me, Brian West. I'm representing for the POWs. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.